or of the migration, but you will still enjoy the longevity of a color that's generally organic or hybrid. Okay. Do you have any question in distinction? Yeah, sure. Over there. Yeah. Semi-last row. The hot blonde girl.
Raise your hand high. Yes, the hot blonde girl.
So my question is, when we buy the color like the ink, they don't mention the ingredients. So it's just little bottle, no ingredients. How we gonna know how much has the ingredients?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, the ingredients are listed at the back of the bottle, but the problem for you is you don't know how much of that ingredient is inside.
Conference in Las
And
Vegas.
the real problem here is that there's millions of pigment brands, as you have seen also in this conference. But the majority of the brands that don't really manufacture their own products, they just buy the pigment from one of the few manufacturers around the world. So they don't even themselves know how much there is inside. So it's difficult to communicate it. My suggestion would be to rely on reputable brands that are on the market since a long time that you can talk to. Then you can find the information. You can be like, okay, tell me how much there is of this, how much there is of that. And also, if I can give you an additional piece of information, maybe choose a color that's been on the market for a very long time so that you can already see the yield results around. You can already have feedbacks from other artists that have used it, and that so that you're not the guinea pig. Okay, so everyone has real clear the difference between inorganic and organic things, right? Because that's essential for you to understand. Yeah. Another question right here.
Keep your hand up for me.
Wow, you guys are so quiet.
This color is applying for skin is being non-color deposited yet. But in case of they have previous artist already deposited the pigment in it, it's an invert gray. So how we correct it?
If there is a correction, we're gonna go through it in the next slides. I have next slide based on the correction. Right now, we're just talking about, you can use them for new procedures, or you can use them for a retouch of an older procedure. That's fine, even if you have done it with another brand of pigments, you can still use like Biotek pigments on top of. As long as there is nothing you need to correct, like color to correct. If you just need to intensify the result, that's fine. But if you want to neutralize, for example, if an eyebrow is red, then you want to neutralize with the complementary color of red, which is green. So you're going to take one of our pigments, the one belonging to the line that you personally prefer, and you're going to add one drop of green mixing color, of green modifier inside of the capsule. You're going to mix it, and you're going to have a brown, which is already balanced with a good amount of green. You're going to go over the old makeup, and it's going to turn after 30-40 days into a neutral brown, from red eyebrows to neutral eyebrows. Okay? And this is for the red eyebrows. The red is easy. The gray and the blue, I have the specific slides, so they're coming. That's why I postponed it. Okay, everything clear until here, right? I don't see it. There's a lot of lights here. So we're going to move forward. Oh, here, just a quick comparison between all of the lines and all of the characteristics. So the first difference is the addition into the skin. First two lines are going to need a touch-up after 1 year. The last line after 2 or 3 years. The consistency is very different. When we talk about the liquid inorganic, we got a mid liquidity. Inorganic creamy, of course, a creamy consistency, and the hybrid long lastings are very liquid. Working with inorganic or hybrid pigments is going to have pros and cons. So, let's see. Okay. Okay. The pros of the inorganic is that you get a very natural result, very subtle, and they go away from the skin quite easily, so you got a good turnover of your customers. They come back more often for the procedure. The downside of working with inorganic is that since they don't stay down into the skin, of course on difficult skins like oily skins, they're gonna go away quite easily. We work with the hybrid long-lasting pigments from Biotek. The pro is the fact that they're very long-lasting and they're super quick to blend. You really save half of the time while you're working in the cabin. You do just 2 layers, 2 soft layers. You don't need a lot of layering with these pigments because they're strong. So only very briefly, 1 layer, 2 layers, the procedure is done. And then you get great retention of the pigment when the customer comes back. The downside of it is that if you apply too much pressure, they're gonna heal. So the pressure is essential. To have a good result with this hybrid lasting line, you need to work very superficially and you'll get the best results in no time. Right? But if you press too much, then it's a problem. And they're also a little bit more difficult to remove with the laser. Yeah, sure. We have another question here. She's coming.
PMU conference in Las Vegas.
We make you walk a lot during this. I'm sorry.
I need it.
Hello. My question would be, how do you work on pressure? I guess when pertaining to, even if you had someone who might have had that gray brow or that discoloration, and you're going back in, how do you know or gauge how much pressure to actually input? Because you're trying to correct it, and I think sometimes when you're wiping it away, you don't really see how much is actually going into the skin. How do you gauge that?
This is one of the most difficult things that we gotta learn when we learn permanent makeup. Actually, at the beginning, it's all a matter of practicing and attempts. I always teach to my students in my academy, okay, I'm gonna teach you the right technique, and we're gonna start with the lightest pressure. When you start, if you're working too light, the worst that can happen is that the customer comes back after 30 days for the touch-up and there is no pigment. And you have to start from scratch. But you're still in time to fix it. You give one more procedure and you arrive to that point. But if you start with too much pressure, there's no coming back. Okay, so my suggestion would be to start even too light and adjust it from there. Then you see how that color retention goes. The color retention is gonna tell you if you are at the correct pressure or not. If they come back, there is nothing, you need to apply a little bit more pressure. If they come back and there's too much, way too much pressure. That's how it goes. I understand it's difficult at the beginning. Okay, one more question over there.
Hand up again.
Hi, I don't know if I missed something, but why you guys do not make organic pigments? You're just hybrid.
Well, because pure organic will be with a lot of carbon black. And we do not want a lot of carbon black. Absolutely. We have organic pigments, but for lips. For lips, perfect. For brows, forget. Okay, so let's move to the correction part. Let's say we got gray brows in front of us. How do we correct it? Step one, we draw a shape. Step two, optimally, we'll try to include all of the old permanent makeup into the new shape. Step two, we mark the shape into the skin, and then we start with our first corrector. The first corrector is called ochre, and is a mustard color from Biotek. This color, the holy grail of gray brow correction, so you need a ton of it. why does it work so well? It has yellow, so it's actually gonna lighten up the brows. It has orange, it's gonna warm up the brows. And it has a little bit of white, that's gonna give us the full coverageness effect. Just a tiny little bit because we don't wanna put too much white in a corrected color. So the mix of three ingredients give us ochre, the perfect corrector for gray brows. And we're gonna do with ochre a lot of layers. The more gray the brows are, the more layers of ochre we need to implant. Okay? And it's not gonna be like a soft pixel shading. It's gonna be a heavy block brows of ochre if they're very dark. The nice thing about ochre is that you can use it for gray eyebrows, for blue eyebrows, or even for eyebrows that are too dark. Like you've chosen the wrong kind of color, you have used the black on a blonde girl. Yeah, and then in that case, you want to be heavy with ochre. You want to do actually even more than a couple of sessions with ochre. I always recommend you to do at least 2 procedures for a proper correction. Spaced apart like 40 days. So first ochre, and you're gonna see it in action in the video just in a few seconds. And then top ochre up with orange red. This is another corrector, it's used also for lip neutralization. It's a bright orange. Then aftercare and then for your first session. If the first session has completely neutralized gray, that's it. If there's still a little bit of gray, you can repeat it in a second session. Otherwise, if you have neutralized it, in the second session, you can just use a neutral brown color. Okay? Here's a quick recap of the colors we're gonna use for this correction. Okay? Initially, we got gray brows. Now we're gonna use, first step is ochre. Second step, the main procedure, 90% of the procedure will be carried out with ochre.
First,
Just the last
ochre,
thin superficial layer
step,
is
orange red.
And that's it for the first procedure. Second procedure, if we have neutralized everything, just use a neutral brown color. Is it still here? Kind of easy for the moment. Yeah, question? He's there.
If you wanted to obtain that, if you wanted to obtain that ochre color, with some of the pigments that we were already working with, like the orange, the red, and yellow, would you be able to do that mixing it yourself, or is it something you would need to obtain through your line? Sorry.
I'm sorry, but you will need to obtain it through my line. I'm sorry. No, I tell you what, okay, maybe when you're new, everything is different. Everything
Las Vegas PMU curtains.
There's a lot of different brands, and everyone has its own formulation. I'm trying to